As we get near our last few speakers, I'd like to allow Aadil Nathani, the co-founder of Green Ummah, to share some words with us. So Green Ummah is an amazing organization that really strives to build awareness and understanding about environmental challenges and activism within the faith community, specifically the Muslim community, and how we should all work together from our various principled backgrounds to achieve this change. Aadil, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's a bit late where you are, and we appreciate you staying up to share your voice.
Of course. Thank you for that introduction, Yusuf. And before I begin, I just want to acknowledge that I'm currently located in Windsor, Ontario, which is the traditional land of the Three Fires Confederacy, the Ojibwe, the Odawa, and the Potawatomi. And I want to acknowledge the privilege that I have as a settler here in Canada, especially when looking at our Indigenous brothers and sisters. We're privileged in all aspects of life, ranging from social benefits, schooling, housing, employment, the criminal justice system, the environment, so on and so forth. So I think it's important to start off with that. And as a Muslim, I'd also like to make a quick and short prayer for everyone who is oppressed and struggling with colonialism throughout the world. And I hope that they're lifted from that struggle sooner rather than later, and that we can all be conduits for good and participate in the anti-colonial movements. And on that note, also, I want to thank all of the wonderful speakers who have gone before me. It was amazing to hear all of the stories that you guys have to tell and to learn from each of you. And I think I've picked up a little something from everyone who's spoken. So thank you for sharing your wisdom and your time with us here tonight. And I guess with that, I'll jump straight into kind of what Green Ummah is. So Green Ummah, as an organization, we're working towards building a holistic environmental movement within the Canadian Muslim community. So I was in law school when I was working on a project with the Center for Cities, where we discussed the importance of tackling climate change on all fronts and the gap that existed for climate-related programming through religious teachings and religious communities. And this led to the idea of creating GU, or Green Ummah. And at the outset, we discovered three things very quickly. First, that we have over 1 million Muslims in Canada, so our potential impact as a community is massive, ranging from our political pull to vote for candidates with better environmental policies, personal changes by implementing sustainable living initiatives, so on and so forth. The potential is massive. Second is that through Islamic teachings, we already have a guidebook on how to engage with the planet and all the creatures on the planet in a nature-friendly and sustainable manner. And the third thing was that people were interested in being involved in making a difference, but they didn't know how to navigate this very overwhelming problem. And youth are already engaged in the environmental work, but they didn't have an organization or a network to turn to. So that's kind of what we're hoping to be. We also at the outset found it important to add a Muslim voice into the environmental movement. There are very few Muslim groups working in this space. And while not monolithic by any means, the Muslim voice, like that of many minority groups in Canada, has been largely ignored or overlooked when discussing the climate. The climate is an existential crisis, and that can only be solved by working together and including everyone in the solution building and recovery. Otherwise, the same groups that have been disproportionately impacted will continue to be disproportionately impacted by climate change. At the same time, at Green Ummah, we also find that it's our responsibility to raise the voices of and to give a platform to, and to advocate with other folks around building a strong anti-racism collective within the environmental movement. So what do? We started up as an organization right as fears over the pandemic were starting. So like all of you or many of you, we had to pivot entirely to the virtual world. So far, we've run 2 successful Ramadan campaigns, where in Ramadan, we provide sustainable tips to the Muslim community. We then started working on what we call the curriculum project. It's the Greening Our Communities Toolkit, and it's being done in partnership with Nature Canada. We've worked with a large team to create 4 modules focusing on the climate change crisis, addressing our biased worldviews, Islam and the environment, and environmental racism, with a particular focus on Indigenous and Black experiences on Turtle Island, specifically in the land we now call Canada. These lesson plans will also encourage and provide tools for students to engage with nature, including outdoor elements and trips to national wildlife areas or migratory bird sanctuaries, in an effort to start reducing the barriers to accessing nature. So this project, we're very excited. It's going to be piloted this school year, starting off with Islamic schools in Ontario. And it will also be launched for free online by January 2021 to make it fully accessible for everyone who wants to learn about this material. Other work that we've done includes hosting Canada's first Muslim-run environmental conference back in March 2021, which some of you spoke at or attended. So it's great to see some familiar faces here tonight. And lastly, we've been working on advocacy and community-based initiatives, speaking at events like this one, and advocating for better environmental policies from the national to municipal levels with elected officials. So if you're interested in learning more about what we do or keeping up to date with what we do, you can follow us on social media. It's at Green Ummah on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, and I'll be posting that in the chat box shortly as well. And I'm not going to take up too much more time today, but to conclude, I just want to kind of give a positive note, especially in the face of all the eco-anxiety, the pandemic anxiety, and anxiety in general that everyone's going through. I just want to say that the tides can turn, and they are turning. Just from our 1.5 years operating in this space, we've seen more and more people get involved and engage with issues relating to the environment, to social and environmental justice, and to the climate change and biodiversity crises. I'm excited when I look at the youth of today and I think about the prospect of them rising up. They're fearless, smart, and at least much smarter than I was, and hungry for change. So it's our role as stakeholders and capacity builders now to provide them with the tools that they need to join the environmental movement, to join the anti-racism movement. And one day it's going to be our role to simply get out of their way and let them do their thing. I also want to say that it's never too late to get started. The time to act, especially on the climate, might have been yesterday, but today is better than never to get started. So if you're wondering how you can get started, there's wonderful organizations, and we've been hearing from some of them tonight and many more. Find your space, volunteer, get involved, engaged, learn, and capacity build. Spread it around with your parents, your social circles, and so on. And the other thing I want to say is, especially for all of us who are operating in this space, let's not give up on anyone, right? These issues, they need us all to work together. So let's be encouraging and not discouraging and work towards a greener future together. Not everyone starts off on the same page. Not everyone starts off knowing about all the issues with the environment, caring about them. I can speak from personal experience on this. Growing up, I would go to science class or whatnot, but I wasn't really engaged with this. But as time goes on, people do change, people do learn, and we need to give everyone that opportunity and go forward together. And with that, I think I'll conclude my remarks. I'd like to thank the organizers for having me on. Again, follow us at Green Ummah and keep up with some of our exciting initiatives coming up.
Thank you, Aadil. It's, the work you guys do is always impressive and amazing. I can't tell you how wonderful it was to have found you, and uplifting to see that there is such passion in the Muslim community for dealing with this challenge and for taking a leadership role on it. I know it's very late there, and we thank you again for staying up to share your voice. It's so important, and we really appreciate it. Shukriya. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.